going over one of the trickiest fallacies, the fallacy of authority, or some might say the fallacy of inappropriate authority. Now, this is considered a fallacy of defective induction. So when you have fallacies of like relevance, like if I were to argue that because you're 20 years old, that what you're saying is false, that's a fallacy of relevance, in that you being 20 has nothing to do with that conclusion, right? But here, the premises seem relevant, but they're just not good enough reasons for the conclusion, for securing that conclusion. But there's a problem here, right? Obviously, we do rely on experts all the time, right? I don't know very much about medicine. If I were to go to a doctor, I would think it's totally rational to conclude that his prescription is worth filling and that his diagnosis is accurate. So what do we do here, right? Am I arguing fallaciously here? Well, here the word inappropriate authority does a lot of work, okay? So there is a class, though, of logicians that think that citing any kind of authority, right, that's you're gonna end up giving a fallacious argument, okay? But most people will say something like, well, it's contextual, right? That if we agree that these sorts of authorities are relevant to our discussion, then if we were to cite them, that would give us a reason to think that the conclusion is true. But notice that it becomes more of an inductive claim. No one is saying that it's not fallacious to say that because someone said it, therefore it's true, right? When someone gives an argument citing a consensus, they want to say that there's something about that consensus or something about that expert that renders them appropriate rather than an inappropriate source. Well, what does that mean? It means that when I cite an appropriate authority, I'm saying that they also have an empirical basis or an inferential basis for their views, right? And that's really the kind of star in terms of justification, okay? Some people think that it's just kind of practical to accept certain kinds of authority figures, even if it's the case that that they think that it's always a fallacy to cite any kind of authority. So some might say that if I were to accept a doctor's diagnosis, that's just merely practical, but not necessarily a justification for thinking that what the doctor is saying is correct. So there are actually a lot of positions on how to regard a fallacy of authority. But in summary, no one is disagreeing that to say because someone said it, therefore it's true, is fallacious. That's clearly fallacious. But there seems to be something behind when we cite an expert or a kind of consensus that when we're saying that they're appropriate or that they're experts, that there's something more to it than the fact that they're just saying it or the fact that it's just mere consensus, right? And so that's the interesting aspect in a debate or discussion, is what secures their belief as qualifying as knowledge. What is their justification? What's their empirical basis or their inferential basis for their views?